Okay, it is now 7 o'clock. We will call it to order. And let's start off with the board norms, which are maintain our focus, communicate respectfully, be present, keep the board productive and effective, and respect the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda? No? All right. Seeing none, let's have our, looks like we might have some student reports, plural. Ruth, you want to?
Yeah.
Me and Trev, and then
Yeah, I'll start
I'm sorry.
with the music department. This upcoming Tuesday, we are having our first chorus and band concert. It is here, so come out and support us. That's middle and high school. We also had,
what time is that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
We'll find it.
And then we had our first music night of the year 2 weeks ago on Friday, and that was really fun. We had food and stuff. Trium put it on, and we decided to pick up different instruments and learn them like 20 minutes before the thing. So we had played 2 songs, 4 of us on different instruments. It was pretty funny and a lot of fun. And the music concert is at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. And then I'll talk about our girls varsity soccer. As you may know, we went through the season. We had an undefeated season, and we made it to the finals this year, and we won for the first time in 31 years. 3-0 against Proctor. So it was a fun game, and it was really nice. We had a lot of community support. When we came back, then there was a fire engine from every single town, and they escorted us into the Townsend, and we did a lap around the common. So thank you for all your support to the community. And I'd also like to thank our bus driver Dave, who made his last run, and he has driven us to all of our games for the last 2 years, and he is probably our biggest supporter. So thank you, Dave.
Very nice.
Anyone wants to add to that? Or?
Yeah, and actually, before we go to Trevor, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
We're good. Yep, we're good.
We were waiting on you.
Okay. All right. Sorry, go ahead, Trevor.
All right, to add on to that, the theater department is closing in very well on the show The Addams Family. We have performances Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night at 7, and Saturday during the day at 1. Also, we had our last town hall, which was about budget, and we had a lot of student feedback about budget. We voted to continue the topic with the people because we didn't have enough time to finish what we were talking about. That's all I have.
That's good. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it, Trevor.
Can I push him a little bit on that?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Trevor, can you say a little bit more, just because I'm not sure if the board knows, when you're talking about budget, what were you guys doing? What was the point of it? What was the hope?
Yeah, sure. So in advisories, we had each advisory make a list of their wants, needs, and wishes for the school, and then we brought that to our maintenance team and also Mr. Kido, and they gave us some approximations on like how much money that would cost and the time frame that it would be, so that the students have a little bit more voice and how the money is spent to benefit them.
And this was organized by Mr. O'Donnell's A block class on, what are we calling it?
We're calling it Town Hall.
Town Hall. And so it's a class organized, Trevor's a member of the class that helps organize these town hall events for the high school. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks for the push. All right. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Let's move on to our Journey East update.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessa Harger. I've met some of you, and I am so grateful and pleased to be here. And we're here with some students today because they have quickly become an integral part of the future of this program. And so my plan is to tell you a little bit about the visioning that I've been doing based on so many conversations I've had with all kinds of folks that have a vested interest in this program, past participants, people who've hosted, people coming here, teachers, students, etc. And first and foremost, we can't go to China right now. The doors are closed. It's nearly impossible. Not totally, but nearly. So that has allowed perhaps for a revamp. And I am proposing that we shift the name from Journey East to Journey Away, which opens it to both domestic opportunities for us to go away from Leland and Gray. It also rhymes, which is nice. And also it can include any direction we want to go, whether it's domestic or abroad. So I will be referring to Journey East as Journey Away moving forward. Next slide. So I handed out to all of you board members and those of you who are in the audience when I passed them out a working mission statement and working project goals for the program. So the working mission statement is to provide students at Leland and Gray with experiences outside the state of Vermont that broaden their practical, intellectual, social, and emotional lives while offering a framework to better understand their own culture, identity, and role in the community. It's working. So if you have thoughts, comments, you can send them my way. Next slide. I'm not going to read through all of these goals, but essentially they all include developing students' agency, whether that's in project planning, design, and implementation, agency because they understand themselves more and they take themselves seriously as students, agency because they have developed confidence from these experiences outside the state of Vermont, agency because they have come to understand who they are as learners outside of a traditional classroom setting. So definitely take a look at those in greater detail. And again, if you've got feedback about any of these, let me know. About any of this presentation, definitely let me know. Next slide, please. So the branches of Journey Away, this is important because it is sort of blasted itself open. We've got, first branch is the International Quiz Booth and Culture Club. And I'm going to talk more in depth about all of these. Second branch is a semester-long academy program that is very similar to the framework of Journey East, what Journey East was. And the third is Study Away project-based learning, which is a faculty-led short-term field study. I'll refer to it as PBL, and it's important to know that PBL, project-based learning, has been happening, started last spring here at Leland and Gray, and has been incredibly successful this semester. Every Wednesday for 100 minutes, students are in a variety of different project groups. And these four, as well as 7 other students are in Mr. O'Donnell and I's project-based learning group, which is to design and fundraise for a short-term faculty-led study away program, which we're going to talk more about shortly. Next slide, please. So, the International Quiz Booth and Culture Club, the IQB, which these names are like not set in stone by any means. I set an example of last week's International Quiz Booth on the table here, which is flags from around the world. So if you guys get a break at any point, feel free to take the quiz, see if you can beat Mr. O'Donnell and Phoebe Conley sitting in the audience with your knowledge of the flags from around the world, some flags from around the world. So basically every Friday I've been setting up a booth down in the lobby outside the cafeteria, and about 70 kids pass through and take this quiz. It's been an incredible success. And it is fun to see these kids get super into it, working together, engaging with maps, thinking about the world beyond. One of my favorite ones we did was the trees of Vermont, because also part of an important part of this program to me is understanding our own culture. And it's really easy to not know about your culture when it's the water you're swimming in, right? So including Vermont history, lore, facts, etc. is going to be part of this international quiz booth as well. So if you've got ideas, let me know. Also, a culture club, which has not been established yet, but there's been some interest sent my way, and I love the idea of meeting 1 week during lunch to talk about identity and culture, current global events, and also perhaps to prepare and run the international quiz booth on Fridays. These opportunities are open to all students at Leland and Gray, middle school and high school students. In fact, a lot of the middle school students are doing very well at the international quiz booth, which I have been very impressed by. Next slide, please. All right, so the Journey Away Academy is the semester-long programs. And the aim is for these programs to launch in the spring of 24. So this is still a ways out, right? Because to plan and fundraise for a program so robust and hopefully so embedded into Central Windham County Supervisory Union is going to take some time. And a lot of relationships and collaborations are going to need to take hold. So spring of 24 is what we're aiming for that. The goal, the dream, is that there will be 2 offerings each year. So a semester in the fall and a different semester in the spring. They will all be theme-based, experiential, and project-based curriculum. So this is very hands-on, very integrated, very experiential, and students are going to be getting academic credit for these, and perhaps some college credit, perhaps through CCV. So that's, again, part of my things I need to work through, right? But the goal is to make it so that students are able to participate in these semesters without missing things that they need to take to graduate, whether it's calculus or whether it's U.S. history, whatever it might be, they're getting that academic credit through these programs. Let's see. Theme-based is important. We'll talk about that in just a second. And whatever theme we're looking at is going to be explored here in Vermont and in the destination we go to. So we're able to, again, learn about our own culture as it compares and contrasts with this other location. So we're looking at the same theme in both places. Next slide, please. These are some of the possible themes. We have things like food systems, public health, transportation, human rights, natural disasters, geopolitics and power, civil rights, social movements, performing and visual arts, comparative education. The list is long. Next slide, please. Some possible locations, New York and New Orleans. Stay tuned. Trelawney, Jamaica. This is the community that I was a Peace Corps volunteer in. And I still have fantastic relationships with folks doing a lot of things that are similar with those themes there. I also love the idea of taking kids from Jamaica to Jamaica. So that's fun. Looking out at the western United States and the Pine Ridge Reservation, which is a Lakota Sioux reservation out in South Dakota. Possibly Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador. Vietnam is also an option. These places have been selected because I have people there or connections, relationships that I can at least follow a thread, right? These programs are really in tension and tandem with where there's money, what students' interests, and what sort of collaborations we can make, right? So those 3 things are and also teachers. So teachers and student interest, where the money is, and the partnerships and collaborations we can have. As I follow these threads, the things that come together are going to be the strongest threads, and that's where we will continue to follow. This is very emergent, right? And it only makes sense to follow the smartest threads. Next slide, please. These are some of the community partnerships and collaborations that I have identified so far. This is by no means exhaustive. Here in-house, here at Leland and Gray, working with the multiple pathways in early college make a lot of sense. The home program is like one of the greatest things that I've ever heard about in a school. When I learned about this happening here, I was like, how can this be available for more students at this school? Of course, academic departments and music and theater as well. The greater community, I have been in touch with our farm to school coordinator, Jenny Kessler. She has a lot of exciting ideas about doing some kind of collaboration. And so the next step is to talk with Food Connects to see how that ties in with their strategic plan and their vision moving forward as it relates to farm to school. Grace Cottage makes a lot of sense because it's here. Perhaps we could do some sort of public health thing with them. 350 Vermont is a robust climate justice organization here in the state of Vermont. And they would be great collaborators. The state government, there's all kinds of government agencies that would be really, might be able to offer us a lot of expertise and insight. And there's also this organization called Protect Our Winters, which is, it's climate based around outdoor sports. So it's like protect our winters because we want to ski, right? And so being in an area with so many ski mountains, that seems to be perhaps a relationship that we could follow. Again, by no means exhaustive. Rescue Inc. also comes to mind as a local organization that we could be doing some really neat experiential things with. Next slide, please. All right. So now is really when the show begins. So we have today Adriana Fairbrother, Eli White, Grace Wright, and Marley Felker to share with you a little bit about what we have come up with for a short-term study away program slated for the spring of 2023. So I'll let you take it away, Adriana.
Hi, I'm Adriana. I'm in 9th grade, and I'm from Newfane. So some issues we face as teens in rural Vermont is we have little diversity, lack of opportunities, and we have a need to understand our own culture. We as a group are also concerned about climate change. For example, the 75-degree weather this weekend. Hasn't even snowed yet, and it's almost like December. This program will help us gain confidence, independence, and have interesting learning opportunities. Also, knowledge and understanding of how we as students can address climate change.
Hi, my name is Eli White. I'm a sophomore. I'm a sophomore here at Leland and Gray, and yeah, so climate change is not just a threat of the future, it's a threat now. As we continue to move forth amongst this climate change, one of the most prominent effects is that of natural disasters. From hurricanes to flash flooding, such natural hazards are increasing issues to people and communities who are susceptible. Yet, as high schoolers amongst a little town in Vermont, the harsh truth is there's little we can do to stop them. But what we can do is to arm ourselves with the knowledge so we are prepared to respond when they do occur. And it's these arms of knowledge we plan to gain through our journey in this PBL project. We plan on gaining this knowledge by going to New York City and looking at the different effects upon people and life within Coney Island in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. Then we plan on going down to New Orleans and exploring the lasting effects of Hurricane Katrina in the lower Ninth Ward and surrounding areas. And it's within exploring both these major cities that we aspire to learn of how such disasters come to be, take oral histories of those who've experienced the effects, and look into what efforts are being made to construct and restore these communities, and what technology, structures, and ideas are being constructed to protect them from future events. And it's through these experiences and travels and through this learning that we plan to take our knowledge back to the community of our little town in Vermont and to us. So yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Grace Wright, and I'm a freshman here at Leland and Gray. I'm from Townsend. Before our trip, we're going to be working on making connections with other school groups and climate organizations. On March 10th, our group will be driving to New Haven, Connecticut, where we'll be taking a train to New York City During our 3-day, 2-night stay, we will journey to Coney Island and Brighton Beach, where we will observe and interview people about the effects of hurricanes, specifically Sandy. After that, we'll be taking a 32-hour train ride to New Orleans. On a ride, we will be collecting oral histories of our fellow train passengers. Once we arrive, we will begin our 4-day and 3-night stay in New Orleans, where we will be staying on a pontoon boat in the Bayou Signette State Park. In New Orleans, we're going to be visiting the Burn Surge Barrier and the Lower Ninth Ward to see what climate mitigation they have. Eventually, on the 19th, we will take a plane back to New England and drive back home to Vermont armed with our new experiences. In the spring, after our trip, we will resume with our PBL. We're going to be able to look at the climate disasters and how they have affected us, so we compare and contrast the effects. And if any of you know anyone in New Orleans that you have a connection with and that you would like to give us their information, then we would love to get to know them and to broaden our opportunities.
Hi. Oh, there's something.
Hi, I'm Marley. I'm a freshman here at Leland and Gray. I live in Townsend. We have estimated a budget for 15 people to go on this 9-day trip. Our budget encompasses transportation, food, lodging, plus other incidentals that might occur, such as tours, gifts, anything else we might need on the trip. The total we've come up with is $19,000. However, our fundraising goal is going to be $25,000 in case prices change of things we are going to need. Leftover funds are going to go to the future of the program so that we can continue to do this. This is going to be done with 100% collective fundraising, which basically means that this is for literally anyone. It doesn't matter what your family's income looks like. It doesn't matter like how much money you personally have. It's for anyone. Anyone can go on this trip. And we want this to be an opportunity for all the students at Leland and Gray. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is just to recap. We have intentions to go to New York City and New Orleans, looking at climate disasters, collecting oral histories, which we can put into the National Archives at the Smithsonian, which is, I mean, it gives me goosebumps thinking about. And then coupling this with PBL as a thing is so incredible because we're able to use that time in the spring to continue our learning. After we've had this experience, we're going to really be able to process it, make sense of it, and take that information in new ways to propel students' interest, whatever piques their curiosity on this trip, and also connect it back to Vermont, right? We did experience a pretty massive natural disaster here not all that long ago, and we can still see the effects. So being able to see our own communities in a new way is going to be a really valuable experience for all of us. We budgeted for 15 people, 10 students, and 5 adults. So 2 of the adults, Mr. O'Donnell and I, and then we'd like to have 3 other Leland and Gray teachers come along with us so they develop their capacity as experiential educators and also their confidence in taking teenagers out into the world. So that's what the 15 people is, the 9 days, $25,000. What we are hoping from you all today is a donation. We're soliciting the school board for a contribution to this $25,000. I'll let you guys make sense of that what you will. It would also be very helpful to access some of that money of this $25,000 in advance so that we can lock in tickets at a much cheaper price than if we're trying to book them once we finally raise this amount. Our fundraising goal is solidly $25,000. If you take us to the next slide, I'll show you how we can get there. This is also replicable. This is important. We're going to talk about that fundraising in just a second. This is the idea of having this PBL as something that teachers can do in the future in subsequent semesters and tie it to their academic curriculum. So Mr. O'Donnell and I have been collecting and documenting everything we've done to get these kids able to develop this program and our fundraising plan so that perhaps a science teacher next semester can just say, students, let's go look at science out in the world. Where would you like to look at science? And so the students are able to come up with, oh, let's go to Yosemite. And then they're able to put together that trip and fundraise for it and get to Yosemite in this following semester. Whether it's a PBL course or an academic course, it is replicable. Next slide, please. The fundraising plan. So the idea, and this is for all of Journey Away, right? So the idea is that we're going to start first with this PBL, right? We're going to start developing relationships with donors. We're going to have a fundraising event. We're going to put this project in front of philanthropy advisors, which are the people that make recommendations to fund holders. So a philanthropy advisor that sees our project proposal may have a donor that they work with that had a life-changing experience on their study abroad when they were a junior in high school. And they may be ripe to fund this program. That's the dream, right? So that's an option. And then also making this program embedded into the vision and mission of the West River School District and the Supervisory Union so that we're able to budget it in to the budget. Grant writing is a little bit tough for this PBL because of timing of grants. You're really writing grants for things that are happening 6 months, but more likely a year out. And because we started this 8 weeks ago, the timing is a little bit off for some of these grants. These are some of the places, local, these are all Vermont foundations that I've done some exploring. They also really want to have community partnerships, which we have not yet established. So moving forward, relationships will be strong with these folks. And also we have a goal of asking 10 individual donors for a donation to this project before we leave in March. The next slide, please. We tentatively have scheduled a fundraising event for December 10th to include a silent auction, a sponsorship for specific items. So if you'd like to buy our train tickets, you can. If you'd like to buy us bagels when we're in New York City, you can. If you'd like to pay for our Bayou tour, you'll get a picture of us holding little baby crocodiles. It'll be awesome. And this, in hopes we're able to start building these relationships with donors in the area. The idea is to have a honky-tonk band. Perhaps some of you remember Mike Roberts that was part of Journey East in its early days. He's in a fantastic local honky-tonk band, so we're trying to get them to come and play for us. Hors d'oeuvres and drinks, which is still, we have some logistics to work out there. And so you may hear from us about some of that as well. And again, the idea is really to bring the greater community into this project. We want people to feel like they are part of this and living vicariously through us as we go traveling around through the world. With technology, we're easily able to make those sweet little videos of us playing with baby crocodiles or interviewing people on the train and sending them back to folks here. And so stay tuned. Next slide, please. So from you all, again, we're looking for a contribution to our $25,000 goal. Fronting us some money so we're able to book those tickets as soon as possible to keep the price as low as we can possibly do so. We're also looking for people within the community that might be good for me to go and talk with for large donations. I would love to speak with all of you about who you might have in mind. I will do all of the legwork. Names are helpful. I'm also very curious to know what themes and or community partners you all are interested in. And you all, that extends to the entire community, right? So if somebody out there is watching right now or on Zoom and is like, oh, I have a fantastic idea, please reach out to me. I'm very excited to follow all the threads until it doesn't make sense to follow it anymore. or until it's like the most brilliant thing, and that's where we go. And I'm also curious how you all would like to be involved. So these are some things to think about, and we are happy to answer any questions you all have.
So before Warren asks any questions, I just want to say for you guys, awesome job. Thanks for coming school night and doing this, great work. And I want to let the board know, when Jesse Riemenstein and I came to you guys last year about this time to talk to you about Journey East and the future and the idea of hiring a new director and looking at reimagining Journey East 2.0. 2.5 months on the job, this is where Jessa has us. So I just want to throw her some credit for the thinking that she's been able to do, the conversations she's had with people, which has led her and these kids, and Mr. O'Donnell and some other folks as well, to this place as a first pilot, and then the bigger vision of what it's also going to be as far as these replicable academy models. So I just want to say, like, 2.5 months on the job, this is where we're at, which I think is probably more than we expected. So when I saw how far along she was, I said, you should come tell the board where you're at. And so, anyways, so that was, I just wanted you guys to hear the thinking that's happened, and it's a little bit different, but also the themes, the descriptions of the skills the kids get through all of this is exactly the same skill set they get through Journey East, minus the cultural piece with China. But putting a bunch of kids in an academy together to create something and then travel, that's exactly what she's describing. So it's like the lifeblood is still there with a facelift. So, and
plus baby alligators.
And we have to at some point talk about, and she and I haven't really talked about this either, but the fund that exists was enough to do one more trip and host one more. And so since that looks like that's not happening, we have to think about how we gracefully have that relationship with the Inner Mongolian Arts University end, as well as how do we spend those funds and how that connects to what she's doing. So that's just some things to think about moving on. But Jesse and I can work with Jessa to talk about at least the Chinese relationship side and figure out how to make that happen.
And it's not done forever, right? The relationships are so strong that should China open its doors again, I think that would be really exciting to be able to include that as an option. Maybe it's every 4th semester. That's the semester that runs. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that to use something that's viable if it's possible, but it would be impossible to get 15 people into China all successfully together. And well, no, we don't need to get into why it's so hard, but maybe one day it won't be, so.
That's all I would say.
No, thank you, appreciate it. Great presentation, and I would agree. Thank you very much. Very well spoken, and wow, in such a short time, how you were able to put that together so quickly. I'll just speak for myself and then open up the rest of the board. I think it's a great idea, all the ideas that you presented. The fact that you would be able to do it more often, right? Journey East was every 2 years previously, so it's almost like the Olympics, right? So now it's something that's more frequent. You're touching more students, which a lot of the board members, that's kind of what we had talked about, is we want to hit more of the student population, and this will definitely do that. So this is great, fantastic, and kudos on such a quick start.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I can't speak for everyone, but back when we had the little long-term planning committee, this was one of the ideas that we had thrown around, and to me, you were meeting the vision that I had when we discussed that in the long-term planning committee. It's a very exciting program. It's going to be open to more students because it's not isolated in interest to one location and arts focused, which Journey East had a lot of arts focus to it. Not that that's bad, but that's not for everyone.
Right.
So this is excellent. It sounds great.
Great.
Yes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Outstanding. I love the poise. You guys obviously practiced this presentation. Makes a big difference. You had written what you wanted to talk about. You communicated very clearly. you weren't nervous, and if you were nervous, you didn't come off as nervous. And I know that's very hard to do, and it's very impressive, so I just wanted to point that out. Just a couple things that I noticed. Agency was the core. That is outstanding. The ties into project-based learning and the ability to, as Leanne said, stretch it much wider to have connective tissue for a multitude of students. I love the idea of connecting your home base to wherever you're going, seeing kind of that Venn diagram of what is the same, what is different, what you can learn from both places. I love the ongoing, where you're doing oral histories, not only the connection with the Smithsonian, but you can imagine 5, 7, 10 years, you could have walls of trips, you could have the video all combined. I know we have a lot of technology talented students, so you could really have an oral history of the oral history. Just unbelievably impressive, as Bob said, in 10 weeks to be at this place. Very curious to hear how the 32-hour train ride goes. I will be very interested to hear how that goes, but just really impressive, really, really impressive.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Great. Anyone on Zoom have anything? Zoom folks? All right, well, if that's everything, I suppose we'll be in touch to see what you all think about as far as making a donation to our $25,000 goal. I hope that you also will all stay tuned for information about our fundraising event. I hope you're able to come and also invite folks. I hope that we can count on you to help us spread this word far and wide. And if there are people that come to mind that would be good for me to speak with for individual donations, please do let me know. Yeah, you got some.
I just wanted to know, what's the easiest way for folks to get in touch with you?
That's a great question. Email is the best, jharger, Harger, at wyndhamcentral.org. That's hands down the best way. You can also, my office is just beyond the Rebel Reading banner back there. And I mean, I work from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm here on campus Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. If you want to come on a Friday during lunch and try your hand at the International Quiz booth, that would be terrific. Bob Tebow has won once before, came in second.
Studies teacher, you better.
He did terrible at the Vermont trees, though, I'm just going to say. Well, thank you all so much for having us. It's been a real treat, and thank you for your feedback. And we look forward to coming and talking with you guys at the...
We've got a Zoom question.
Oh, we got a Zoom question. Okay.
It looks like you guys froze up a bit, but I think one of the questions, Jessa, that you had asked is about spending money ahead of the fundraising. And I think that that's an important thing for us to discuss because I know you want to get started on booking things for this March trip. So as the Director of Finance for West River, I can assure the board that there is money there to go ahead and do that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So before you leave, what is the amount of money that you would like to request of that $25,000 that would need to be immediately available? Sorry, Ken.
First Lori took it, then you took it.
Okay. So I'm asking for a board member, Ken McFadden.
Yes. Yes. So really what we need to get these lodging and tickets booked is about $15,000. It really is the bulk of everything because it's train tickets to New Orleans, it's plane tickets home, and then lodging in New York City and in the Bayou Seignet. The Bayou Seignet, I have to say, I might even send you the video because it's so cool. It's in the Bayou, which is 15 minutes outside of New Orleans, which is pretty cool. And it's on, the cabins got destroyed during Hurricane Katrina, and so when they rebuilt them, they built them on pontoons. And so they rise and fall with the tides. It is also $300 a night to sleep 8 people. So we'll need 2 of these. It's an incredible deal for 3 nights of lodging. So we are being economical. I guess that's really what this is part of. So I think it's actually under $15,000 that we would need. Lori and I have talked about this before this meeting. And Lori, do you remember the exact number that we had talked about earlier?
I think 15 is a good place to start.
Okay.
Yeah, of needing upfront money, and then obviously the fundraising will replace that. And then the board can discuss at a further meeting, probably around budget time, what they would like to, if they would like to donate.
Wonderful.
If the taxpayers would like to donate.
There it is. Thank you, taxpayers.
So I'm sorry, is this additional monies or a diversion of monies from?
Diversion.
Okay, gotcha. Go ahead, Greg.
Bill, you're gonna love this. So I know people, I know vendors around, and if you could get me and share with me like a one-pager, right, like a little blurb about your financials and how they kind of break down what you need for transportation, what you need for this, what you need for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of it basically being like an explanation of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I would happily send that out to all of our vendors that we are regularly spending money with and kind of urge them to maybe give back a little bit. So if you could get something like that and send it to me, I would be happy to reach out to some of these people and see if I can get them to give back to us.
That sounds great. I did miss what the organization is.
All the vendors.
All the vendors.
Oh, for this.
Facilities manager.
That is our director of operations.
Nice to see
Sorry.
you, Greg. Okay, yes, but that's easy to do. And also, you guys heard how eloquent these 4 are. This group has been incredible. I mean, they came up with the theme. They did some viability studies on where we could possibly go. They've figured out how much it's going to cost to cook 15 people breakfast every day. They have really done the work. This is not Mr. O'Donnell and I dropping information into them. This is them, this is all a wellspring from them. It is incredibly impressive to see what you guys have come up with so far. So this 10 weeks, that's great accolades to get. And also these kids absolutely deserve it as well. And mostly 9th graders here, which is also, the future is obviously very bright. So, and Eliza.
And they get to create it.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, Greg, that's a long way to say yes, I'll send you the stuff.
Can I make the motion to divert $15,000 to this group of people here to get their?
By all means, Ken.
Yes, good, that's my motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Dana.
Thank you, Dana. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, starting in Zoom land, say aye. Who do we have in Zoom? We have a team.
Drew.
Dana and Sarah.
Dana.
Oh, thank you.
Who's giving a thumbs up?
Sarah. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah too.
Aye.
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 Dana.
All right, thank you. Joe.
Aye.
Ken.
Aye.
Leanne.
Aye.
And aye for me. Motion carries unanimously. You have $15,000 diverted.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Book some transportation.
We'll go get some plane tickets tomorrow. I'll be calling everyone's parents tomorrow. Thank you guys.
All right, good job.
Thank you.
You sold the cheap guy, so you had to do it.
All right, we can sneak out the back door.
All right, now we'll get into the boring stuff. That was really exciting. Thanks, folks. All right. We don't have much for correspondence, so we'll move into old business. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 12th, 2022.
So moved.
I have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dana. Any discussion? Seeing none. We'll start with, let's see, Sarah.
Aye.
And Drew? Oh, didn't hear that. Think that was an aye? Thank you. Dana?
Aye.
And Joe?
Aye.
And
Aye.
myself. All right, passes unanimously. Moving on to approve financials. Who's gonna present those?
Dana.
Me.
All right, Dana, thank you. And you're muted.
For pay voucher number 23, I need approval for, I want to make a motion to approve $35,488.94.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Sarah, how do you vote?
Aye.
Drew?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Aye.
Leanne?
Aye.
And aye for me. Motion carries unanimously. Everybody gets paid. All right. Let's see, moving on to long-term planning update. Feasibility study 1 campus model.
You, Joe, you want to give us an update on that?
Well, sure. The officers reviewed all the proposals and went with the proposal from Stevens and Associates. They have given us the outline of what they're gonna do, and the building tours begin tomorrow, right? 8 a.m. And that's where we are. They'll go through that, ask a bunch of questions, and I assume it's gonna be a back and forth process.
Yeah, I would just add, you guys all have a copy of what Stevens and Associate provided in your packet. And, I give Joe and Mike a lot of credit for being very thoughtful about digging deep into the proposals to look into and all the considerations. And yeah, very exciting, as Leanne was talking about just now with the visualization of the expansion of Journey Away. Actually having some professionals come in tomorrow and go on tour and look at Townsend and Leland and Gray is pretty exciting. So just give a lot of kudos to the board for getting to this point and continuing to move forward for the benefit of the students and the community. So thank you.
All right, thank you. NEASC, you want to talk about that, Bob?
Yeah, so the update there is that the principals and Jen, Bill, and I met to review the application process, which is long. And we've been collecting information we need from various sources in ESU to craft that. It includes a narrative with lots of detail. We have another work session coming, and I have a work session of my own to put together the narrative piece as well to bring to that group. So, but the pieces are there, we're just getting ready to put the application together. So as soon as we have that in, we'll find out where that really puts us in the queue as far as the timeline goes. I'll let you guys know.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to public comment. We'll start with 3 minutes for anybody who would like to comment, if we have anybody from the public out there. Let's see. Well, I'd say unless Chris wants to say something, then,
Public comment?
We have public comment now, in case you have anything. You good? Okay. All right, well, we'll move on to new business then. So, budget development, board guidance, and we'll start with the scheduling of the budget committee. Go ahead, Lori.
Sure. So first, a little context as we start to develop the budget, and then maybe some dates for the budget committee. Is the committee staying the same? That's a question for the board. So context, I want to remind the board of what's in your control, right? The expense budget that translate into a cost per student is really what is in your control. You don't control the yield, which we don't have any idea what it is yet, and you don't control the CLA, all of which is used in the tax calculation. So I just wanted to make sure everybody's remembering that, the expense budget is where the board has the most control. And just to give a little context as to how we're entering into the budget season, there are 7% salary increases for certified staff, which is 2 years of negotiated increases. An estimated salary increase for support staff while in negotiations, 12% increase in healthcare, and then we're going to have to deal with a funding cliff when the ESSER funds run out for some valuable positions and programs. So good news is there is no penalty again this year, and we're just awaiting, some of the yield numbers and all of that. The principals and I are meeting on the 18th to start the budget process. So budget committee members, guess reminding who they are, and is that staying the same?
Oh, you want us to remind you who they are? All those who
Well,
were
I
on
know
it, raise
you
your
were
hand.
on
Is
it,
that-
and I
yeah,
know Joe,
So yeah,
and I believe, and maybe Dana, and possibly Leanne.
Yeah.
Leanne, you were on it?
I
Yeah,
think I was.
Yeah, yep.
yeah, I was on it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Was Mike as well?
Yes, he
I
was.
think it was the three
Yeah,
Mike-
officers, Leanne
Mike
and
was.
Dana, right?
Okay,
That sounds right.
We didn't want more than 5.
right,
Mhm.
right.
Right.
Is everybody good with that? Anybody have a hankering to be on? Nope. You don't want some more meetings? Okay. I mean, we bring everything back to you anyway, so.
Right.
Okay, and then, so you said you're meeting with the principals on the 18th, so I assume we wouldn't want to, obviously not meet before that. And then we have Thanksgiving the week after that, so are we looking the week after Thanksgiving to start?
Yeah, I think probably we could do something on the 29th, 30th, or the 1st, or the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And probably I'm leaning more towards the 6th, 7th, and 8th, only because it takes, me some time to get everything together in a presentable format.
Okay, 12, 6, 7, or 8. What days of the week are those?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Right. And probably, hold on one second. Yeah, I was gonna say that Tuesday, the 6th might be out. It might be a Stratton meeting. I think I might have a first budget due for Stratton on the 6th. So, 7th or 8th.
Okay. I'll be in Montpelier on the 8th, I know that, so I'm out for the 8th.
Either one's fine with me.
At
With this much
WSU,
notice,
meeting
yeah.
on the 7th at 7, so if you guys want to meet before that. Lori?
Are we thinking an hour?
Yeah, I think, we'll go over the first draft, so that you have a deep understanding of it. And then I also will be going over the WCSU budget, in that meeting, as well as the meeting on the 14th of December with the full board.
Okay. Do we want to book 6 to 7 on the 7th?
Sounds like a great deal.
Can do it here.
Here, right,
Okay.
here,
Yeah,
right, at
no,
Leland and
that's
Gray prior to.
Conference
Yeah,
room at
conference
6.
room. Okay, great, let's book it.
Perfect. Got it.
Great. Anything else, Lori?
I guess just any direction that the board would like to give in the development at this point in time.
Anything, folks?
Keep it low.
You can't say cola anymore.
I said, keep it low.
Yeah, cola.
If you go over to cola this time, there's a problem.
Yeah, we gotta see.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe try and come in under cola. That'd be a shock.
So 12% healthcare, that's the firm, or that's just the guidance right now?
That's what VHI requested from the Health Commission, so they usually get what they ask for.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anybody programmatically that we're thinking of? I guess let me ask principals, anything that we should know in advance that we don't have that we're thinking of?
Could I just ask a global kind of question?
Yeah, sure.
So would the board like to see, for example, some of these positions that have been funded by grant funds for 2 years? Would you like to see those separately, or would you like to see them built into a budget? How would you like the administrators to think about that thought process? When we went into it, we totally understood that there was a cliff, that we only had them for a certain amount of time, but you also now have, a year and 3 months of data to either make an argument that it needs to be included, or that we would want to be included, or that we understand that we had a runway and the runway is going to end. Would you like that to be kind of separate from the budget so that you can actually think about adding and subtracting those things? Or would you like those types of things to be completely embedded?
Can you just define for us again those positions that are affected by the ES?
Well, like we had an additional nurse, we had a homeschool liaison, we had a social and emotional coordinator.
If they were baked into the budget, would it still be apparent, like what the cliff is and where it's coming, or would that just be harder to suss out?
I think we're going to make it clear no matter what. It's just, do you want it as like, here's the core, and here are things that were funded by grant funds, and this is what they would cost. And so you know that if you had a $12 million budget, and then you had $360,000 of these others, it would be $12,360,000. Or do you want to see $12,360,000 with those highlighted saying, these were previously paid for by grant funds? It's more of a formatting thing. The principals will have an evidence-based argument for why these things should or should not continue. I'm just wondering, for the board's edification and look, do you have a preference?
Has there ever been a principal that argued for less? I'm just curious, because.
I don't know how to answer that question.
All right, Ken.
No answer.
Yes, last year, Scotty, he reduced a position.
Scotty did.
Yes.
Thank you, Leanne.
Let's see.
I didn't want to blow that.
Lori, let me just ask you. I think obviously it's important to see it separated, but I think you could probably still build it into the budget in some way, highlight those positions.
Yeah.
And then let us know separately that this is how much those account for. Because I know it's probably a challenge for you to pull stuff in and put it, just a lot of mechanics behind it, I'm sure.
Yeah, first draft, it would be fine to, have these separated out. It would be clear as to what the increases were without adding these particular positions. So it's really up to the board and how you want to see it. I'm fine to do it either way, but to get a really good sense of what is the increase based on who's employed and what programs are going right now, then I would say keep them separate.
Okay.
All right, keep them separate. I'm good with that.
For first draft, yeah. Do we have the dollar amount for those positions? Just
No,
roughly?
I do not.
No? Okay, that's fine. That's all good.
All right.
We will.
Well,
And then secondly,
Yes, please.
because we have the town hall of the students, and they've already had their first meeting, and now they've had their second meeting, I would just ask, would the board like those suggestions built into the budget coming from the student boards?
Those will be filtered through Greg and Mike.
They're facilities based?
They're 95% facilities based, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, never mind, that's clean.
And a lot of it was stuff that Greg, we already had in the needs assessment stuff anyways. It was just a matter of like, how do you prioritize it based on what the kids would bring up. There was a few other big ones, like lights for the field, things like that were larger, that we said we would price out and things like that, but I mean, it was really, parking lot repairs and stuff that he already had in his radar, locker rooms, and whatever, that kind of stuff, so.
Okay, I just want to make sure they're doing the work. We got it.
All right, okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Just one more thing, Al. I think
Sure.
that the one thing that probably should be put into the budget on the first draft is the project-based learning program, because that is something that, you've just talked about, you've committed to, and that is grant funded at this point in time. The kickoff of that was grant funded.
You're talking about the director of it position?
I'm talking about the supplies and the stipends
Right.
that are
was
in
also
ESSER.
funded, Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. For sure, we've made a commitment to that. Do we have an estimate on that? If not, that's fine.
I want to say, and Bob, you probably have this from your request, but I would say it was upwards of 50 to 70,000.
I was going to say 60.
There you go.
All right, there you go.
We'll call it 60.
I think it's like 58. I'm going to bet 58.
Okay, we'll see, Bill.
All right.
No more on December 7th.
With that one.
I might take the over on that one.
Ooh, okay. Got my FanDuel account ready to go.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Al.
Look forward to the process.
Let's hear from Greg.
Oh, Lori, could you stay on?
No.
Just so while Greg makes this request, in case there's some budgetary questions about this. Thank you.
Greg, Alliance Mechanical Work Request. And there you go.
And I'm making a mess of it, sorry. Yeah, so when we saw the surplus there last month in food service, or maybe it was even 2 months ago, but I was talking to Jake, and one of the issues we've had in the kitchen is the windows in there, it gets so hot in there in the summer that we actually have to run fans all summer long so that we don't overheat the kitchen equipment. And another piece of it is we've been trying to make a cafeteria, kind of like a cafe style up top, where the kids get their food. And part of the issue there with doing something there is the gigantic heat unit that's on the wall over there that like is right in the middle of it. And it was like, and so we reached out to Alliance and got a quote in about doing, about using some of that surplus money and putting in heat pumps that would work as the heat and the AC in there. And then that way we could pull that unit out. And we were actually thinking we would basically part it and use it for other units around the building. And in the time of getting the bid for that and this meeting happening, we also have access to another round of indoor air quality money. So I'm also going to try to run it through that anyways, but I would like to request to use about $25,000. I think it was 25 to 26,000.
25
of the 170,000 for a heat pump. It could work out to be substantially less than that. You'd have to, we have to apply, we have to get approved, and then the match this round is 20, 30, or 50%, depending on your areas. Gosh, I think it's based on, percentage of free and reduced kids, I think. So I think we would probably qualify for only having to really pay 20 to 30% of that 25,000. But we would like to do it. Just try to upgrade the kitchen.
And just to add context, Lori, the money that Greg is asking to be requested from the board is money that can only be spent on the food service arena. And could you tell us approximately how much money is in there?
Yeah, so I think when I gave this information to you before, it was around $150,000. So there is money there to do this project for sure. I would caution against using all of the surplus from last year because we don't know, you know, from year to year. Like to leave a little in there to you know, meet any needs that are not being met budgetarily.
So from your perspective as the Director of Finance, $25,000 for the board to consider out of approximately $147,000 makes sense.
Yes.
So we need a motion to send him on his merry way there?
Yes, you do.
Okay, I'll make a motion for Greg to start with Alliance Mechanical to do the upgrades in the kitchen at Leland and Gray.
25.
For the amount of $25,200.
To get it. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dana. Any discussion? Any motion maker?
No?
Greg, is that the first heat pump that we will have in the building?
No.
No, you guys run quite a few of them in the A-level offices, and there's another one that runs in the main offices and the library.
Yeah.
So.
And quite a bit more efficient than previous system, right?
Yeah. The only issue you really ran into is that they're actually great and they're super efficient, and they're also, because they heat and they cool, the only issue with them is they don't bring in fresh air, but you already have a feed and a return and the exhaust fan in the kitchen. So you're getting plenty of air, airflow in there anyways. So we didn't need the giant unit ventilator that's down on the other end. We're still able to meet all the ASHRAE guidelines without that. So.
Perfect.
There you go.
Thanks. It is. Any other discussion? No? Seeing none, we'll move to Zoom first. Let's start with Drew. He's got his mic open.
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Leanne?
Aye.
Al? Aye.
Wow.
Motion carries unanimously. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to principal reports. Curriculum request process update. Mr. Tebow.
All right, so this is a document. Oh, I guess it's 2 pages, sorry. Yeah, it's front and back and the second page.
2 pages.
Was it a last meeting? I think where we had a community member, a parent who made a pitch to you guys about the education curricular piece. And we wisely punted to Jen at the meeting. Somehow it ended up back in my lap with Jen. What we decided was that it was really important to think about how, not just how to respond to this particular request, but to have a structure and a process in place to respond to future similar type requests so that we had a protocol ready to roll. So what Jen developed here is sort of a 2-column look at the proposal that came in, which is the documentation request column on the left. And then on the right is sort of an analysis from the SU or district perspective on what those particular elements were. And so, as you can see, like under each section where there's a description of different things. For example, I bring up the, that's what I like to talk about. Let's see. Well, so for example, under the education quality standards alignment, so that's one of the things we want to look at. We want to look at Common Core alignment, which in this case is the SHAPE standards, and then, which is more on the back page, but then secondly, we want to look at the EQS alignment. We want to compare it to what the fit is with the scope of sequence of the SU, and then how it fits, how it tracks with our vision and mission. And so each of these things were sort of, I don't know, measured up against it, sort of crosswalked with it, I guess you could say. So if you look at, for example, the EQS section, under the personalization realm of EQS, there is an element of this with alternative programming and student voice and choice, which is a positive, so we highlighted that was there. And that does track with what we do on the personalization side. However, on the academic proficiency side and on the Safe and Healthy Schools side, there was no evidence provided by the proposal that it would meet EQS. And then you can see on the right-hand side how those areas are being met by the existing systems. So just to kind of show like how we would look at curriculum requests moving forward, so we can come back to you guys and say, all right, so there are elements of this that do align with what we can do, and there's elements of this that don't. And then that would give you guys, I guess, a place to either respond or table it, or whatever direction you guys give us with that. On the back side of the first page, we did come up with a couple of possible recommendations the board could direct us towards. One would be to look at a student survey about interests and feedback on phys ed experiences, which is only to track sort of the assertion that kids aren't enjoying or aren't getting what they need from phys ed. That we could do a survey to track that. And another one would be to consider revisiting K-12 PE department work. They had developed a scope of sequence, this is pre-COVID, and have been rolling that out since, but it has been a while since that group got together, and so we consulted with probably the most senior member of the department here in the high school to determine how long that had been, and yep, it was an agreement that that could be something that we could explore further, bringing that back. So that could be another recommendation you give. And then we also attached the actual standards, the SHAPE standards for phys ed. But one of the things I wanted to highlight for you guys is that while there's 5 standards listed in that graphic, and I know the print is maybe hard to see, one of the things that I wanted to point out under the other considerations piece is that each of those standards is further broken down into a variety of performance indicators. And those are the things that drive the scope and sequence of the course. And those are the things that Ruthie and Trevor get scored on when they're in those classes, right? The standards grading, so those are the things that get measured about. So if there's around, depending on the grade level, between 5 and 10 or 12 indicators under each one, you're really talking that there's, 50 or so performance indicators within the phys ed curriculum. So it's actually a pretty expansive thing, and it's my opinion, after talking with Tammy, that the proposal might meet some of them, but certainly not near enough to all of them to replace it. And so, and we give an example of, there is one high school indicator under standard 3 that does address alternative out-of-class activities such as dance, horseback riding, etc., and about lifelong skill development, things like that. But that's just one performance indicator from one standard out of, like I said, 50-ish at the high school level anyways. So, yes, there's ways to kind of allow for that, but it would be too hard, in our opinion, to grant even credit for that, because it's just one very small element of a course that has multiple performance indicators, multiple standards. That makes sense. And then, of course, the other piece, which under the EQS, the other thing to consider is that even when you're using flexible pathways, this is a quote from EQS, that learning must occur under the supervision of an appropriate licensed educator, which has always been, I won't say the holdup, but it's been a challenge to, like, Ruthie takes dance, and she wants phys ed credit for that. Well, the dance teacher is just a dance teacher who owns their own private studio. They're not a licensed physical educator. So that, you can figure how that works out. Now, if there's an element that you're doing for independent study, perhaps, that is above and beyond what the core requirements are in phys ed, and that person's working in aligning the curriculum with a phys ed teacher on staff, then you might be able to do some creative things there. So, yeah, so that was sort of the short version was that, then we attached, this was his letter. That there are elements of his proposal that we're already doing, but the extent to which we can do those are limited by EQS the shape standards, and our current scope and sequence. So, anyway, we wanted you guys to know that, and if you had further direction for us at this time, you can give it to us, but in the future, just know that this process is the process we'd use if we had similar curricular requests moving forward, so you can see how the request aligns with, the law and EQS and, those sorts of things, so you can have an informed decision on where to go.
This is great.
Any questions?
So it has to be a licensed phys ed teacher or a
If you're-
licensed teacher?
Well, appropriately licensed. In other words, if you're talking about physical education credits, then it has to be a physical education teacher. So like Tammy as a physical education teacher could grant credit in English. That's what it is, so.
Currently, aren't high school students able to get up to half of the credit doing sports?
They are, and the essence of that is that if they do that, what's supposed to be in place is that they are supposed to have the coach, if the coach of that sport is not a licensed teacher, they work in conjunction with the athletic director who, when the previous one set it up, was a licensed phys ed teacher, as is the current one. They oversee that credit, half credit, to go in that direction. That extra half credit is actually additional to what the state requires. So the state has this sort of an idea around 1.5 credits is the standard for phys ed, and we require 2. And so that extra half credit is really, it's above and beyond what the requirement is, if you will, but not our graduation requirement. See what we did there? It's tricky. I say we, that was done before I came here. But it does make sense, and yes, that works under the supervision of the AD's phys ed license.
Good question.
Awesome.
And that's actually, it's a quarter credit, right? You can do it twice.
Yeah,
A total of
it's
half
2
credit.
quarter credits for each.
Yeah, that's that.
And you can get up to half.
Up to a half.
That's what I have.
Yeah.
So just a reminder, so the board's request was to hear the citizen share with the board and to then ask our director of curriculum to review the request. Under Bob's leadership, we went beyond that and actually created a much more universal template that could be used for future requests. And then we used this request as the pilot to run through. We're providing that to the board. And I guess the question is does the board have any further direction?
Well, we need to get in touch with this parent who made the request and let them know right now at this point, there's nothing we can do until the higher structure changes.
Well, I would temper that and say that there isn't nothing we can do. We're doing some of it. We can't do all of it.
Right, we can't do all of it. We can't do any further at this point.
And so that request came to the board. If the board wants to direct me to reach back out to that parent and have that conversation, I'm happy to do so if that's what the board desires. Or direct it over directly.
Somebody just.
They're both.
We've only got 8 months left.
You think you can get to it? Or are you pretty stacked up?
So it is my understanding that the board would like the principal of Leland and Gray to communicate this process that the board asked us to go through back to the parent who made the original request.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's difficult for Drew, Sarah, and Dana to understand what we're talking about with not having the document in front of them. But hopefully they can understand the process that we're trying to go through.
Oh, I understand it well.
Thank you, Dana.
I don't think we need a motion.
No.
Yes.
You did that.
Yes.
Yeah. You guys cool with that, Pat?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we don't. And then I'll take the second one about the 4-care update. Scotty has received 1 application, and he set up an interview. He's getting back tonight. It's either later this week or early next week. Renee has not received any. But we will keep it posted, and as they come in and possible applicants make themselves available, we will continue forward with that. Wanted to update the board on that as well.
Thank you. And Superintendent Report.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight two major things after the written report. Bob and I, and our Director of Workforce Learning, Internships and Co-ops, Terry Davidson Berger, are getting a tour from the Executive Director of VEMSA, the Vermont Emergency Management Services Academy.
Sounds good.
Did I get that right?
No.
Please correct me.
The Vermont EMS Academy.
Oh! All right. What does EMS stand for? Emergency Medical Services? Well, okay. That was close, man.
Very close.
Anyways, the three of us are getting a tour of the facility and the opportunities that we can partner with Leland and Greg at the Academy. We're very fortunate that it is in our community, that it is a high-quality, world-class facility that is very interested in partnering with our students and our community. So the executive director reached out to both Bob and I, and we are going tomorrow at 9 a.m. In the middle of our tour
Might be a little late.
for the building. So it's very exciting. And then just a reminder that next Wednesday, the 16th, 7 o'clock, is the first WCSU budget building. And that will be here on site.
All right.
You waiting for it?
I will entertain that final.
Move to adjourn.
And second.
Second.
And I'm sure there's no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. We're just log out of Zoom.
Aye. All right, have a great night, everybody.